I need to tell you something that's going to piss off a lot of people. The career transition gurus, the entire $14 billion self-help world has been selling you a lie. And I know because I believed it for 15 long years. In this video, I'm going to explain what they got wrong, why you feel burnt out, and what you can do to get back on track. Here's how I know. It's 2010. I'm making 200K. Great job. Prestigious company in London. I'm flying all over the world. Living the dream, right? Except I was dying inside. So I did what everyone said I should do. I read the books. The 4-Hour Work Week, Think and Grow Rich, Start with Why. I watched the TED Talks. I paid for the courses. MindValley, Tony Robbins, the whole circuit. They all said the same thing. Change your mindset. Think positive. You can do anything you set your mind to. So I quit the job. And for the first 6 months, I felt free, liberated, like I'd broken out of prison. Then year 2 hit. Then year 5, then year 10. And I started to wonder if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. It's not that I lacked discipline. It wasn't that I didn't work hard enough. I was working 8-hour days. I was doing everything the gurus told me to do. The problem was that they were giving me maps for a world that doesn't exist anymore. Here's what I didn't understand then, but I do now. There are 2 types of people that love giving career advice. Type 1 is the mindset gurus. This is Tony Robbins, MindValley, Shetty, Lewis Howes. These people tell you the problem is in your head. Just think differently and you'll succeed. And then type 2 is the solopreneur personal brand crowd. Ali Abdaal, Dan Coe, Justin Welsh, Gary V, Matt Gray, Alex Hormozi. These people tell you the answer is to build an audience, create content, and productize yourself. And both of them are wrong. Not because they're lying and not because they're making a mistake, but because they're optimizing for a game that's ending. I'm going to explain more about this, so hang in there. They're teaching you to be better at playing Monopoly, but meanwhile the game has long gone out of fashion. It took me 15 years to figure out what was actually happening. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. The reason you're burned out, and 89% of us report burnout right now, isn't because you lack motivation. It's because the entire system you were taught to succeed in is collapsing. And no amount of positive thinking or content creation can fix that. What you need isn't a mind shift. What you need is a worldview shift. And that's what this video is about. If you can stay with me for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to show you 3 things. 1, how entrepreneurship itself has been evolving for 12,000 years. And why we're about to enter a completely new phase that nobody's talking about. 2, where we actually are in history and why that explains why everything feels like it's falling apart. And 3, what you can actually do about it. How to make real income during a significant transition that no one has prepared us for. This is the video I wish someone had made for me in 2010. Let's go. Okay, let's zoom way out. I'm going to show you something that changed everything for me. I learned that entrepreneurship has been getting more and more abstract throughout human history. And most people don't realize this, but we're about to cross into a domain of entrepreneurship that barely exists yet. Let me show you the 4 phases of entrepreneurship. 12,000 years ago, the agricultural revolution happens. The first entrepreneurs are farmers, blacksmiths, potters, carpenters. In this domain, your value comes from your proximity to physical resources. You make things with your hands. You should sell them to people who live close to you. This is entrepreneurship tied to place, to land, to your village. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution about 250 years ago. Suddenly, entrepreneurs aren't making things anymore. They're managing the making of things. They become managers of production systems. In this domain, your value comes from organizing capital, labor, and machinery. You're no longer tied to one place. You can have factories in different cities, different countries. So this is entrepreneurship tied to factories. Then about 30 years ago, the internet happens. In this domain, entrepreneurs can create value without physical products at all. Software, platforms, content. Your value comes from connections, from networks, from how many people you can reach. Think about it. YouTube creators, app developers, online course sellers, they're not selling physical things. They're selling access, attention, information. So this is entrepreneurship tied to networks. So you can see the abstraction from land to factories to networks. And this is where most career transition advice stops. This is where the solopreneurs are operating. Build your network, grow your audience, create digital products. But there's a fourth phase, and almost nobody sees it yet because it's still early days, but things are moving rapidly. We're entering a phase where the most valuable thing you can offer isn't a product or a system or even a network or a course. It's coherence. That's the ability to help people make sense of what's happening, to integrate their experience, to orient them when everything feels chaotic. In this fourth domain, entrepreneurship is about translating your understanding of reality into something that helps others navigate their lives. You produce and sell coherence. And if that sounds abstract or vague, stay with me because this is where everything clicked for me. Here's what I didn't know in 2010 when I quit my job. We are living through the end of a 400-year cycle. Here's a framework I came across that really helped me understand things. It's based on research by historians who study how civilizations rise and fall. It's called the Cycle of Empire, and it shows 7 phases that have consistently repeated across 26 empires. I took this framework and mapped it to our current global civilization, which started in 1648 with the Peace of Westphalia. I'm skipping a lot of the history here because I want to get to the main point, which is this. We're now in phase 6, the crisis period. So this started around 2009, right after the global financial crisis. Cycles from the past tell us that this phase will run until about 2040. And this phase is characterized by people losing trust in institutions, systems that used to work and suddenly start breaking down, mental health crises across entire generations, people feeling like the rules to the old game don't make sense anymore. Does any of that sound familiar? According to Ray Dalio, we're going to have a decade of dramatic disruption in the 2030s. But it's not all gloom and doom because the cycle always repeats. There's a long period of overlap between the end of one cycle and the start of the next. And we're in that overlap period right now. The point about all of this is what brought me so much relief when I finally understood it. So if you're struggling right now, this is not about you failing. It's not about one person failing. It's not about you being, whether you're positive enough or not hustling hard enough. This is a structural collapse that's underway. The systems themselves are breaking down. And there's a specific reason why. At the beginning of every historical cycle, society is run by builders. These are the people who focused on creating new things, new systems, new ways of organizing life. At the very end of the cycle, society is dominated by bureaucrats, people whose entire job is to maintain the existing system and prevent any change whatsoever. And right now, we're at the end. The bureaucrats are in charge, and they're desperately trying to keep everything the same while it all crumbles around them. So this is why Gen Z is so frustrated. They're builders born into a bureaucratic endgame. They want to create something new, but every institution is telling them to just optimize their resume and play by rules that don't lead anywhere. So I'm a Gen Xer, and all of this, I felt all of this in 2010. I just didn't have the language for it. Thankfully, things get a little more hopeful in all this doom and gloom. And we know this from history. Phase 7, the transition phase, started in 2020. Can you remember? The Great Reset. Historically, this is the phase when builders start appearing, when new systems start forming, when the collapse stops being just destructive and starts also being creative. It's still early days, and we're living in the overlap right now. Some things are dying, other things are trying to be born. And this transition period, it's going to last until about 2060, which means if you're watching this and you're in your 20s, 30s or 40s, this is your entire working life. So this is what I wish I'd known in 2010. This isn't about having the right mindset or asking, how do I grow a personal brand? The question is, how do I learn to build during a transition? What should I build? And what's the next abstraction in the phases of entrepreneurship? Okay, so that's all the historical context, but there's something even deeper happening. And this is the part that's hardest to talk about without sounding too abstract, but I'm going to try because it was this final piece that made everything make sense for me. For the last 12,000 years, since the agricultural revolution, we've been operating within a competitive worldview. The way we've organized society is based on a few core beliefs. Resources are scarce, you have to compete to survive, success means climbing higher than other people, and you win by extracting value and accumulating it for yourself. Now, this is neither good nor bad, it's just been the operating system. It's how life has worked for the past 12,000 years. But that operating system is breaking down, not because people are bad, but because it's unsustainable. It's eating the planet, it's burning out humans, it's creating more problems than it solves. And what's emerging, slowly, messily, is a different operating system. It's one based on collaboration instead of competition. It's based on regeneration instead of extraction. It's based on networks instead of hierarchies. The biological model for this is actually something called mycelium, the underground fungal networks that connect trees in a forest. They don't compete, they share nutrients, they coordinate. They make the whole system more resilient. And whether you believe this philosophically or not, the economic reality is already shifting. The most successful companies in the last 10 years or so have been connective. Think Airbnb, Uber, Spotify even. They create value by facilitating networks, not by owning factories. And the next evolution? It's not just connecting people to services, it's connecting people to meaning. Because here's what happens when worldviews start collapsing. People lose their frame of reference. The story that told them who they are, what matters, what to do next, that entire story stops working. And when that happens, people will pay for someone who can help them make sense of it all. So that's what I've spent the last 15 years learning how to do. And it's what I want to show you. But first, let me tell you what actually changed for me. Around year 10 of this journey, so 2020, COVID hit, and I was pretty much broke again. I'd tried so many different things, freelancing, consulting, building products. None of it worked long term because none of them brought me joy and happiness. It was just another job. And I remember sitting in my apartment thinking, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe I should just go get another corporate job. But something stopped me. I had this feeling that the problem wasn't me. The problem that I was trying to succeed using a map for the wrong territory. All the advice I'd been following was about optimization, how to be more productive, how to grow an audience, how to scale, all the stuff you've heard before. But I didn't need optimization. I needed clarity. I needed to understand what was actually happening so I could stop blaming myself for failing at a game that was rigged to collapse anyway. So I spent 12 months just studying history, systems theory, consciousness research, economics. I wasn't trying to build anything. I was just trying to understand. And when I finally saw the pattern, the evolution of entrepreneurship, the cycle of globalization we're in, the collapse of worldviews, everything changed for me. Not because I suddenly had a business plan or suddenly funded, but because I finally understood what I was actually here to offer. I started calling it framing. And here's what I mean. A frame is the lens through which we individually interpret reality. It's the story you tell yourself about what's happening and what it means. And right now, most people's frames are breaking. They can't make sense of why they burned out, even though they're doing everything right. They can't understand why the advice that worked for their parents doesn't work for them anymore. They feel lost and anxious, like they're failing at life, but nobody can articulate why. That's frame collapse. And here's what I realized. Frame collapse creates market demand. When people's frames start breaking down, they need three things. One is story coherence. Help me make sense of my life. Why does everything feel so chaotic? Is there a pattern that I'm missing? Two is emotional integration. Help me feel okay with what I'm feeling. Validate that I'm not crazy. Show me I'm not alone. And three is existential orientation. Help me know what to do next. Not a step-by-step plan, but a direction, a sense of where to aim. The penny-dropping moment came for me when I realized the $14 billion mindset industries just cannot provide this. Mindset coaching says just think positive. Therapy says process your trauma. Career coaching says update your resume. And the career transition guys say build a personal brand and produce more content. None of them are addressing the worldview level. None of them are saying the system you were taught to succeed in is collapsing. And that's why you feel this way. That's why nothing works. So that's where a framer steps in. A framer helps people see that their confusion actually makes sense. Their burnout is an intelligent response to danger. Their inability to just stay positive, that's not weakness. It's their nervous system rejecting a dying paradigm. And people will pay for this kind of coherence because institutions can't provide it, corporations can't provide it, even most therapists aren't trained to address this. So there's a gap in the market and it's growing every day. Some people call it a mental health crisis. I see it as a new domain of entrepreneurship opening up. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, let me break it down so you can see what entrepreneurship in the very near future will look like. So 3 steps. Step 1, develop your frame. This means understanding where you personally are in this transition. What have you learned from your own experience of the collapse? What patterns have you noticed that other people haven't named yet? For me, it was understanding this evolution of entrepreneurship, the 4 different phases, as well as the historical cycles of empires. And those two became my frame. For you, it might be something different. Maybe you've figured out how to navigate career transitions with chronic illness. Maybe you understand how to build community in the digital age. Maybe you've learned how to parent during these transition times. The point is that your lived experience of navigating this transition is your expertise. You don't need any other skills. So step 2 then is to learn to translate what you know. This is the art of what I call vibe framing. It's like vibe coding. It's where you show others how to have AI conversations that can help them see their situation through a new lens. You're not coaching them. You're not telling them what to do. You're witnessing their experience and translating it back into a framework that makes sense. Oh, so you're feeling burned out. That actually makes perfect sense. It's because you're operating from a collaborative worldview in a competitive system. No wonder you're exhausted. Let me show you what that means. So that's basically vibe framing. And then step 3 is to create an offering. The simplest version, it's what I call a narrative alignment session. It's a 90-minute conversation where you help someone map their experience, identify their worldview, their frame, and then orientate toward their next move. You can charge $200 to $500 for this, and not because you have a certification, not because you're some kind of guru, but because you can provide something they can't get anywhere else. worldview level clarity. You don't have to build a funnel. You don't have to grow an audience. You just have to offer clarity to people who are drowning in confusion. And we know there are millions of them. So once you understand this model, you can scale it. Group sessions, cohorts, workshops, eventually maybe a course or a book. But you start with conversations, with framing, with helping people see. So here's what I want you to understand. There are two types of people while we're in this transition phase. And it comes down to whether you're on the right or the left of this curve. Type 1 are bureaucrats. These are the people who fundamentally want things to never, ever, ever, ever change. They want to find the right strategy to succeed in the existing system, the one that's ending. They want optimization and productivity and scaling. If that's you, and if you're one of the gurus in this space, this video obviously isn't for you. And that's okay. There's no judgment here. There's no right or wrong. But the rest of what I'm going to say won't resonate at all. Type 2 are builders, and these are the people who feel that something is fundamentally changing. They don't want to optimize the existing system. They want to help build new ones. They can see that something new is already emerging, and they want to play in that playground. They're the people who quit their jobs even though they couldn't articulate why. They're the people who feel called to something, but they don't know what and they can't quite describe it yet. They're the people who are exhausted by the hustle, but know there has to be another way. So if that's you, I want to tell you something. You are not broken. You're just early. Every historical cycle begins with builders. Look at the founding of America in 1776, right at the beginning of the cycle. Look at the entrepreneurs of the Industrial Revolution. Look at the internet boom in the 90s. Builders win right at the beginning of cycles. And we're entering phase 1 now of the next cycle of empire, foundation, 2030 to 2060, which means if you're in your 20s, 30s or 40s, this is your era. But you can't wait for someone to give you permission during this period of uncertainty. You can't wait for the institutions to create space for you because they won't. They're bureaucratic. They're structurally incapable of it. They themselves are busy collapsing. You have to learn to build during the collapse of the old, in this overlap period, while things are still messy and unclear. You have to forge your own path, even when everyone around you is telling you you're wrong. And the way you do that is by developing your frame, learning to translate it, and offering it to people who need it. So here's what you need to know about this period. It's predictable if you understand history, and it's predictably terrifying if you don't have a map. But if you do have a map, if you can help people see the pattern, if you can say, here's where we are, here's what's happening, here's what makes sense to do next, that's not just valuable, that's essential, it's priceless, and people will pay for it. Because what you're offering isn't a product, it's orientation. And right now, that is the scarcest resource in the world. So if you're still with me, I want to say this directly. Your burnout and frustration and confusion is not failure. It's your body refusing to participate in a system that's dying. Your inability to just stay positive is not a weakness, it's intelligence. It's your awareness that something is fundamentally wrong, something is changing. Your confusion about what to do next isn't because you're lost. It's because there is no map for where we're going. The territory is entirely new. We've never navigated this kind of transition before. And that means you can get to be one of the people who creates the map. I know how scary this can sound because I've lived it. 15 years of not knowing if I'd made the right call. 15 years of wondering whether I'd lost the plot. 15 years of wondering if I should just give up and go back to a job. But I'm so glad I didn't, because I found the history and the science to back up what's happening. We all knew this anyway. It was in our bones. We just didn't know how to describe it. So what I've found on the other side isn't certainty. It's not security. There are still plenty of unknowns. But what I have found is coherence, the ability to make sense of what's happening, the ability to help others do the same. and the ability to make a living doing it. And that's what I want for you. So here's what I've built. It's called Framer OS. It's an operating system for builders in the foundation phase of the cycle of empire. It's a 12-week intensive where I teach you exactly what I've learned over the past 15 years. How to develop your frame, how to translate it into conversations, and how to create your first offering, and how to serve your first client by providing worldview level clarity. This is not about building a personal brand. It's not about creating content for algorithms, and it's not about hustling. It's about understanding where we are in history, what's emerging, and how to position yourself to serve that emergence. But Framer OS is not for everyone, so I developed an assessment that will tell you in under 3 minutes whether you're a good match, whether you're a builder or a bureaucrat. There's a link somewhere in the description, and I'm sure you'll find it if you're not sure which one you are. But even if you don't take the assessment, I want you to take this lens out into the world. Ask yourself, am I operating in business as usual, or am I ready for what comes next? Am I trying to optimize for a collapsing paradigm, or am I building for what's emerging? Am I following someone else's outdated paradigm, or am I ready to forge my own way even when everyone tells me I'm wrong? I'll leave you with this. Our job is not to fix a broken world. We are here to witness its transformation. Your job is to make sense of it for yourself. And then if you choose, to offer that coherence to others. There's no question about it. The old systems are already composting. The institutions are crumbling. The worldview that structured everything for 12,000 years is breaking down. And in that breakdown, there's a huge amount of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But there's also opportunity, because when old forms die, new ones can emerge. And the builders, those people who can see what wants to be born, those are the people who will shape what comes next. And that might be you. And if it is, I'm here. I'm doing the same work. I'm building the same transition. The point is, you're not alone in this. Thousands of others are here too. The future isn't found. It isn't formed, it's framed. Now, if you want to understand more of what's coming between now and 2030, watch the video that's somewhere on your screen now. Thanks for watching, and frame on!